Welcome back. Good morning, glory. Bonjour. Hi, I'm Hugh Hewitt. It is Thursday, April 30th, year of the plague 2020. 61,504 Americans are said to have died of the virus. Some of those lump in a bunch of people with comorbidities, but it's 61,504 and 1,060,000 cases. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I am here to bring you all of the news. Big day for news yesterday out of the Oval Office. President Trump said a very important thing about China. I want to lead this off because, look, it's the Chinese Communist Party, stupid. Here's the president in the Oval Office spray talking about that, cut number 10.
It's coming in, and I'm getting pieces already, and we're not happy about it. And we are by far the largest contributor to WHO, World Health, and they misled us. I don't know. They must have known more than they knew, because they came after what other people knew that weren't even involved. We knew things that they didn't know, and either they didn't know or they didn't tell us, or, right now they're literally a pipe organ for China. That's the way I view it. So we're seeing and we're looking and we're watching. And again, we give $500 million. We have over the years from 400 to 500 for a long time, for many years. And China is giving $38 million. And yet they seem to work for China. And they should have been in there early. They should have known what was going on. And they should have been able to stop it when you talk about stopping the spread or stopping the embers. That could have been stopped there. And then why did China allow planes to fly out, but not into China, but they allow planes to come out? And planes are coming out of Wuhan, and they're coming out, they're going all over the world. They're going to Italy, very, very big time to Italy. But they're going all over the world, but they're not going into China. What was that all about? So we had you'll hear. We're coming up with a very distinct recommendation, but we're not happy with it. We're not happy with it. Even today, I've heard some statements that are very positive. There's nothing positive about what happened in China having to do with this subject. Nothing positive at all. And I finished a number of months ago with a trade deal, and you would have thought it would have been like somebody would have said, hey, they could have stopped that at the source. They didn't have to let airplanes fly out and loads of people come out. And we're lucky, as Tony said, we're lucky that we stopped it in January, flowing into our country from China, outside of our citizens. People now say, oh, well, you shouldn't have let our citizens back in. Let's forget about that one. We're lucky we stopped in January. A lot of people, long after that date, as you know, thought that the measure that I took was much too strong. John Bell, we're lucky we stopped it then. We put a border, we put a ban on people coming in from China. So we'll have a recommendation pretty soon, but we are not happy with the World Health Organization.
Nor with China. Later in the day, the president invited in the best guy in the White House press corps. There are two old pros, Steve Holland and Mark Knoller. One for one for scribbling, Reuters, Steve Holland. One for radio, Mark Knoll. They are just the facts guys. And the president wisely invited in Steve Holland for his first one-on-one in a long time in the Oval. Here is Steve's report for Reuters. Quote, President Donald Trump said on Wednesday he believes China's handling of the coronavirus is proof that Beijing, quote, will do anything they can to make him lose his re-election bid in November. In an interview with Reuters in the Oval Office, Trump talked tough on China, said he was looking at different options in terms of consequences for Beijing over the virus. I can do a lot, he said. Trump has been heaping blame on China, as is, by the way, this is Hugh Hewitt. Yes, of course, they're at fault for a global pandemic that has killed 60,000 people in the United States, according to a Reuters tally, and thrown the U.S. economy into a deep recession, putting in jeopardy his hopes for another 4-year term. The Republican president, often accused of not acting early enough to prepare the United States for the spread of the virus, said he believed China should have been more active in letting the world know about the coronavirus much, much sooner. Asked whether he considered the use of tariffs or even debt write-offs for China, Trump would not offer specifics. There are many things I can do, he said. We're looking for what happened. China will do anything they can to have me lose this race, said Trump. He said he believes Beijing wants his Democratic opponent, Joe Biden, to win the race to ease the pressure Trump has placed on China over trade and other issues. They're constantly using public relations to make it look like they're innocent parties, he said of Chinese officials. Trump said the trade deal he concluded with Chinese President Xi Jinping aimed at reducing chronic U.S. trade deficits with China had been upset very badly by the economic fallout from the virus. A senior Trump administration official speaking on condition of anonymity said on Wednesday that an informal truce in the war of words between Trump and Xi, essentially agreed to in a phone call in late March, now appeared to be over. The two had promised that the governments would do everything possible to cooperate to contain the coronavirus. In recent days, Washington and Beijing have traded increasingly bitter recriminations over the origin of the virus and the response to it. Not recrimination. We're speaking the truth, and the Chinese Communist Party is lying. However, President Trump and his top aides, while stepping up their anti-PRC, CCP rhetoric, have stopped short of directly criticizing Xi, who the U.S. president has repeatedly called his friend. Again, I'm reading the Reuters report. Steve Holland sat down with him. Trump said South Korea has agreed to pay the United States much more money for a defense cooperation agreement, but would not be drawn out on how much. We can make a deal. They want to make a deal. They've agreed to pay a lot of money. They're paying a lot more than they did when I got here in January 17. The United States has 28,500 troops in South Korea. Trump is leading a triage effort to keep the U.S. economy afloat through the stimulus payments to individuals and companies while nudging state governors to carefully reopen their states as infections decline. Trump sounded wistful about the strong economy he had enjoyed compared with now. When millions of people have lost their jobs, GDP is faltering. It fell 4.8% in the first quarter. We were rocking before this happened, the president said. We had the greatest economy in history. He's right. He said he's happy with the way many governors are operating under the strain of the virus, but he said they need to improve. He would not name names. Trump handling the virus has come under scrutiny. 43% of Americans approve of it, according to a Reuters poll. There's some good coronavirus news, as Gilead Sciences said. Its experimental antiviral drug, remdesivir, it was showing progress in treating virus victims. Trump is also seeking an accelerated timetable on the development of a vaccine. I think things are moving along nicely, he said. At the end of the half-hour interview, Trump offered lighthearted remarks about a newly released Navy video showing an unidentified flying object. I just wonder if it's real, he said. That's a hell of a video. Steve Holland, that it is China, 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 and the president is going to drive that message home. Jared Kushner on Fox and Friends echoed his father-in-law and boss as he said, this is going to be accountability moment for China. Cut number 8, Jared Kushner on Fox and Friends.
Yeah, well, right now, our job at the White House has been mainly focused on how do we take care of the American people. We've worked very hard to make sure that we've gotten all the supplies that we needed for our healthcare workers. We've made sure that we've produced, I think last year we did 30,000 ventilators. We're going to do over 100,000 ventilators in 3 months that we're going to create here in America domestically, showing that America does have the potential to do tremendous manufacturing capability again. And we're working now on testing and doing great with that. But what we're learning from this, so as we take care of the American people, we're learning that the president, what he campaigned on was that we want to make sure that we're bringing manufacturing back. We can't be relying on other countries. And I imagine after this, we'll put in place very strong strategies to make sure that America doesn't have to rely on any other countries for critical supplies in the future.
Hey, Jared, I know you got to think big picture, and this question's easy for you to punt on. I'm hoping you won't. It's pretty clear that the Germans feel they were owed $160 billion, and Leading Magazine wrote that. They've been critical of them. Australia says we're doing an independent investigation on what happened here and how the whole world has been poisoned by this country, knowing that we're still intertwined with them economically to a great degree and adversarial militarily to a great degree. Do you believe that they owe us a check? And will there be an invoice handed to them shortly? Because the president seems to be slowly seething with each progressing day when it comes to that question at his press conference. Is there going to be an offensive move on them to replenish our resources as we've been brought to our knees economically?
Right. So President Trump right now is obviously focused on the response, but he has asked the team to look into very carefully what happened, how this got here, and to make sure that he will take whatever actions are necessary to make sure that the people who caused the problems are held accountable for it.
Absolutely. And Mike Pompeo said this. Cut number 18 very quickly.
What I've seen this administration do is take seriously this threat, to identify those who perpetrated it, where it began. And with respect to the WHO, we know that they had one job, right? A single mission, to prevent the spread of a pandemic. We know that the leader of that organization traveled to China and then declined to declare it a pandemic until everyone in the world knew that was already true.
So you've got the president, Jared Kushner, and the Secretary of State all laying down a marker yesterday. It's China, 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 people. The Chinese Communist Party, stupid. That's what did this. I'll be right back. It's